Bonnie here with So Inspired by Bonnie with another Tuesday's tip. And today we're going to discuss GlitterFlex. Before I get started, I hope that you will click on the follow icon on the Facebook page so that you'll get future notifications when we go live each Tuesday. And I hope you'll go to our website at www.soinspiredbybonnie.com, and that's S-E-W, not S-O. So let's go ahead and get started. I wanted to discuss some tips and tricks with GlitterFlex and how to go about using it. You can use GlitterFlex for machine applique, and you can also use GlitterFlex for just by itself. So if you didn't want to use any stitching on it whatsoever, you can do that too. It is heat activated. It's a heat transfer vinyl, so it's heat activated, and it's fusible on the back side of it. So let's go ahead and discuss how do you get a really good fuse so that it doesn't come apart on you. How do you get a good fuse so you don't have bubbles and you don't have those little wavy things, what I call waves going on in an embroidery design. I haven't seen this so much when I'm doing it just by itself without embroidery, but I have seen some of this with embroidery designs. So what I like to discuss is we go ahead and test it first. Every iron is a little bit different. If you have a heat press, that's great. You can use your heat press with this product, that's fine. But for those of us that do not have a heat press, you need to test your iron. If you do have a heat press, let me back up a bit, you need to set your temperature at about 330 to 335 degrees, and you need to fuse for 17 to 20 seconds. So, how do we know what 330 degrees to 335 degrees is on our home iron? We don't. So I did a Google search and found out that that's approximately a cotton setting. However, as I said before, not all of the irons heat at the same ratio. So what might be a cotton setting for one at 330 might not be quite that temperature on a different iron. So what I do is I have a small iron that I got years ago from my dealer, and I didn't even know it was a heat sealing iron until that one died because I used it so much and I needed to replace it. It's by Hanger, that's H-A-N-G-E-R. It's a Hanger 9, and I found it on Amazon. It runs about $20 or less. You can find it for a little under $20 on sale sometimes. I'll post the link to the Amazon iron that I use later on in the comments section. And again, or not again, but if you are here, go ahead and let me know that you're here. I will look on the computer later on to see if we have any questions, and then I'll answer your questions at the end of the session, because I think it'll be a little less distracting if I do it then instead of trying to do it right in the middle. So again, I'm going to post that link of the iron that I use. It's inexpensive, but that doesn't mean you have to go out and get that iron to use it. I've used it with a few different brands of irons. I just happen to like this one because it'll get inside my embroidery hoop nice. I'm not real fond of the teensy-tiny clover irons, and the reason being is because they're so small, it takes forever to get everything fused. And I think you get a better fuse when you have a little bit bigger surface to work with. This one does have a Teflon coating on it, which I like. It's nice and slick. So, how do you go about testing? You just get yourself a little piece of cotton fabric, a scrap of your GlitterFlex, and again, I have this set somewhere between 3.5 and 4. And you're going to, I'm kind of hung up here with my cords, you're going to, let me back up a little bit, need to get a pressing cloth. And you can use a pressing cloth just about any kind. I like either a scrap of cotton fabric to lay on top, or I like this thin Teflon sheet. I'm not real crazy about the thick Teflon sheets because I don't think the heat gets through as easily as with the thinner Teflon sheets. So you're going to get your pressing sheet on top, and then you're going to press. and that means you're just going to hold it in place right on top, and you're going to count. And I'm looking at the clock here a little bit. It doesn't have a second hand, so I'm out of luck that way. You're going to count to about 17 to 20 seconds, and then you're going to lift. Now that wasn't 20 seconds. And if you can peel it, you know, if it peels off or is loose, like this is a little bit loose, you know that it needs a longer time or a higher heat or both. So you go ahead and test it again. You're going to hold it down for a good 17 to 20 seconds. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and that should be good. Then you're going to lift up your press cloth, and nope, see, this is not quite good enough. I did not hold it down in place long enough, and I've got a pressing sheet, so I'll cover that a little bit later. So I might want to crank up my iron just a little bit, and again, just go ahead and test. Maybe bump up the heat, maybe hold it for a little bit longer until you find the right combination that works for your fusing process. Once you have that done, you would let it cool a little bit and then double check it again and see if you have loose ends. And this is pretty darn tight. I'm not getting anything pulling up. If you get a nice good fuse this way, it's going to fuse well on your project. Okay, so you're ready to go do your project, and I'm going to start with something that was in your embroidery hoop. So a couple of little tips with the embroidery side of it. If you're doing the embroidery, I like, and I did it a little bit extra, I like to use a higher contrast on my placement stitch as well as my tack down stitch. The reason being is that with GlitterFlex, there's so much sparkle that if you use a thread that is the same exact color, unlike your fabric, the shadows don't really show very well because you've got all this glitter going on, and it's hard to see the thread. So it's kind of hard to trim if you can't see what line you're trying to follow. So I always recommend to use a higher contrast thread when you're doing your tack down stitch as well as your placement stitch. Just a little tidbit there. Another tidbit, now I know the manufacturer recommends using a pressing sheet, and I did use a pressing sheet for a very long time, and then one day, I don't know, I just by accident I didn't use a pressing sheet. Now I will admit that I use a good quality cotton fabric so it doesn't scorch real easily, and I didn't have any problems not using a pressing sheet. Again, the particular iron I use has a Teflon coating on it, so it doesn't seem, if there was any glue that would come loose, it's not sticking. I did experiment a little bit with my home iron that does not have a Teflon sheet, and it didn't have any problem. But again, this is just something I've tried and it works for me. There's more than one right way to do it. If you're not comfortable doing this without a pressing sheet, by all means, use a pressing sheet. But I just wanted to demonstrate how I do a lot of it without using a pressing sheet. So again, you're going to hold it down for 15 to 20 seconds. And I'm going to count here. I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so anyway, that's about 15 to 20 seconds. And as you can see, I'm going to show you a close-up here. We don't have any issues of scorching. And the thing I like about not using a pressing sheet is I can see exactly, and I hope you can see it too, I can see exactly where I have pressed and where I haven't. Because where I have not pressed yet, the GlitterFlex is still kind of raised up away from my fabric. It's a little bit puffy, and I hope you're able to see that. I'm going to move it from side to side and a little up and down just to hopefully you'll be able to see it. So since I can see exactly where my last section was, I can move on to the next section. Now I do press. I don't iron at this stage of the game. Ironing is that sliding back and forth motion. When I'm fusing, I just go straight up and down, and that way I'm not ooching or scooching the GlitterFlex from side to side. You want it just up and down motion so you don't have any movement. Now, you can tell that you've got a nice fuse when it's nice and taut against the fabric and you don't have the loose, like this section I have not done yet, so it's kind of loose. If I were to do my embroidery right now with it not fused, I would get bubbles and you would see it raise up. Now, I discussed what I call waves, and waves are when you know that you had it fused really good, you did your testing, you know that you had the right amount of time in each section, you know that you used the right amount of heat, but you're getting kind of a ripple effect in the after the embroidery. What that is stabilization. With fabric, we get puckers, and very light puckering, you'll get a little bit of wave around the outer edge of your design. With vinyl, it doesn't pucker up quite the same as fabric, and it took me a long time to figure that out when that would occur, where I'd have kind of just a little wave. I would kind of scratch the surface and I could scratch the surface where the GlitterFlex was, and I could see that that vinyl was definitely adhered to the fabric, and yet there was a little wave. The wave is because it didn't have enough stabilization. So watch your stitch count. When you get like 10 to 20,000, you know, when you're getting up in the 20,000 stitch range, you might want to have a couple of layers of a medium tearaway under there as opposed to just one layer of the medium tearaway. More often than not, I'm good with one layer of medium weight tearaway, but there are instances where you need a couple of layers. And if you're getting kind of a wave and you know that it's been fused to the fabric well, that's really kind of, it's telling you this is a pucker. It's just a vinyl pucker instead of a fabric pucker. Another thing that I wanted to mention is when you're doing your fusing, do not use any steam. Moisture from the steam can interfere with the fusing process, and then you won't get a good fuse and you'll get bubbles. So definitely use a dry iron. This one obviously doesn't have any steam, so I can't make a mistake with that by accidentally having the steam on. So just bear that in mind. No spray starch, no steam when you're doing your first fuse. Now, after it's been fused, after it's cooled down and it's definitely adhered to your fabric, you can go ahead and spray starch it. It's fully washable. It's not going to come out. You just don't want to use steam or spray starch during the fusing process. There was something I was going to say and I forgot it, but maybe I'll come back to it and remember later on. But it was something there. Anyway, so that has to do with your embroidery. No steam, no spray starch until you have it cooled. I remember now what I was going to say. When I'm at the embroidery machine and I'm doing my embroidery and I take this out of the hoop and I do my little fusing like I was just demonstrating, and then I go back and I put it in the machine, I let it cool for just a little bit to make sure that it's actually dried and fused. I don't immediately start stitching while it's still hot, because with the push and pull of an embroidery design, that might also lead to some puckering or some waviness in your design. So what I like to do, just my methodology, if you will, is I will pick out my contrast thread for the applique. I will stitch out those two segments. I will get it fused, and then I'll go pick out the rest of my colors of thread, line them up. So I'm not wasting any time just sitting there waiting for this to cool down. So I pick out the other colors for my design, I line them up so they're ready to go by my machine, and by that time it's generally nice and cool and I'm good to go. So that was the other thing that I almost forgot to mention, but I think it's really important. Okay, so I'm just looking at my cheat sheet here to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. Press not iron, let it cool a little bit. Fabrics, that's what I was going to discuss too. Do not use this on nylon fabrics because nylon fabrics can't withstand the high temperatures and you'll get them to melt. Another thing is they don't recommend using GlitterFlex on napped fabrics. And the reason they don't recommend using GlitterFlex on towels or things like that or velvet is because the base of the fabric is down here and then you have all these little fibers that are standing up like a really short haircut, a crew cut. And so when you fuse, it's only going to fuse to the uppermost portion of the crew cut of the fabric. And it's not going to fuse to the base. So if you've got just it fusing to the little top hairs of the fabric, chances are you could poke holes through it and not get a good fuse. So what I recommend, because there's always a back door, I say, if you can't get through the front door, go through the back door. Look at your applique, see what size the applique you need, not the whole design, but just the applique section that you need. Cut yourself a piece of regular cotton, a scrap maybe that you're not using, and then fuse a section of GlitterFlex to that cotton fabric. So now you've created your own applique fabric. Once you have fused the GlitterFlex to a regular old cotton, then you can use that cotton on top of a towel, or I should say that new fabric that you have created, because you have fused the GlitterFlex to a nice solid base fabric prior to putting it on a nap fabric. So that's a little trick that I do when I want to work around the system when they say you can't use GlitterFlex on nap fabric. That's how I've worked around it so it works. Okay, now let's go into the cutting machines, using GlitterFlex with those. What you're going to do is you're going to get out your cutting mat, obviously, and always on your cutting mat, cover them with the protective sheet that came with your cutting mat. That will keep your cutting mat clean so that it stays sticky longer. And then you have two sides to your GlitterFlex. You have what I call the face side or the front, and then you have the back, which is smooth yet fusible with the heat activation. And there's also this clear carrier on top of your GlitterFlex. So it's just, you know, it comes off. Many of you that have done applique, you know how you take this off to do your applique. So there's the clear carrier. What I like to do is I like to put my GlitterFlex face down onto my cutting mat. And excuse me for looking down, but I have to see the mat to do this. So I do it face down onto my cutting mat. So see, the wrong side is facing up, and you can see the right side through here. So we have the cutting mat, there's the clear vinyl, and then there's the front there of the GlitterFlex, and facing up is the back side of the vinyl. Since you're putting this face down on your cutting mat, you're going to cut all your designs in mirror image. That way they come out right when you go to press them. Now I did one this morning where I, laid it face down, and it cut on this side in mirror image. So you see it here. It cut it in mirror image. And then when you go to weed this, and I thought I had the little weeder here, and I don't see my little weeder. Oh, there it is, excuse me. You take this little weeder, that's what it's called, and it looks like a dental instrument, and you're going to pick out the segments that are waste that you're not keeping. It's called weeding. And let's see here. See if I got all my little segments. I did. So here's what we have. So if I'm looking at it this way, again, this is the clear vinyl, or excuse me, the clear carrier that was face down on my cutting mat. It cut from this side, which is in reverse image. So that when I go to press it onto my project, and I just have a piece of cotton fabric here to pretend it's my project, you're going to take the clear carrier and carry it over to your project. The nice thing about this is it keeps everything in place. So if you had sections that were completely separated, say a little dot on an eye, or lettering, where there's little sections that are separated and there's negative space between your letters and stuff and such, it keeps the carrier keeps everything in place, so you don't have to realign everything. It's wonderful, wonderful. So anyway, then again, it's cut in reverse. You're going to put it sticky side down where you want it on your project. So now it's going to, since it was cut in reverse, it's going to be the right side up. And you're going to press right on top of your pressing sheet, or not pressing sheet, but the clear carrier acts like a pressing sheet. And again, you're going to go for 17 to 20 seconds in each section and get a really good fuse on your project. Once you have it fused, and I don't think I was on there quite long enough, but you get the idea, you're going to gently peel the clear carrier off, and it's just going to leave your project, or your GlitterFlex, fused to your project. And I've done this on aprons, I've done this on, just various things. It's a lot of fun to do this. You're going to want to pull off the clear carrier from your GlitterFlex while it's still warm. So you're still going to do each section for 15 to 20 seconds. And then again, you're going to pull off the clear carrier sheet while it's still kind of warm. Unlike when we're doing embroidery and we wanted it to cool a little bit before we did all the embroidery on top of it, because you're having push and pull with the threads. Here, you don't have that. So you're just going to gently pull it off while it's still warm. And you can see, and again, I have not fused all of it for a full 15 to 20 seconds. That's why my W is lifting over here. So that's not a problem. If you have something that does lift while you're working on it, you didn't get it quite long enough, just lay it back down, go over, and fuse some more. Which brings me to the next deal. If for some reason, because accidents do happen, you didn't get something fused well enough and it lifted a little bit after you washed it, no problem. Let it dry completely, lay it flat, and fuse it again for 15 to 20 seconds. So it really is pretty slick that, the glue does not wash off of the vinyl. It stays there forever. So you can salvage things. But see, I stuck it on there a little bit longer, so then it didn't come apart on me. I hope that, I was checking my notes here. Yep, I think I've gone over this. I hope that I've covered a lot of things that you might have had questions about. I'm going to look now on the computer to see if anybody has any questions that I can answer for them. Oh, we have several here. Oh my goodness. You girls are... See if I can see it. Well, it says I have 20 questions, but I can only see about 3 or 4 of them. I don't understand why my computer's not going to let me see all my questions. Okay. Heather's here, Sherry, Pamela, Kim. There's several of you here. Heather asked, what is the heating iron called that you are using? Again, the heating iron that I'm using is called Hanger. It's spelled H-A-N-G-A-R, 9. That's the number 9. And it's a heat sealing iron. It gets really hot, so anywhere between 3.5 and 4 has worked great for me when I'm doing all my fusing for my GlitterFlex. Sherry, I hope you will check it out. Thanks for showing up. Okay, I don't know why I can't see all the other comments. There's a lot of comments here and I'm not being able to see them. So what I will do, my computer's acting up. I have always said computers are a love-hate relationship. What I will do is I will go back after I end the video here and I will read the questions and then I will answer those questions. Since I can't see them right now, it's not letting me. I can see the people that have asked questions, but it's not letting me see the actual questions themselves. So it's being cantankerous, just like a guy. So I will go ahead and go check the comment section after I get off of the video here. I will post the video later on and I will post it to YouTube at my YouTube channel as well as my Pinterest channel. So if you're on either of those platforms, you'll be able to go back and review our little Tuesday's tip here with the GlitterFlex. I hope you've learned a couple of things, a couple of tricks that might make it a little easier for you and not so scary, because really GlitterFlex isn't scary at all. It's just another product that's available for us to use with our hobby, which is a lot of fun. It kind of crosses over between two hobbies, that being the embroidery side as well as the silhouette cameo side, or your scan and cut cutters, you know, various cutters. I did want to mention, because I almost forgot, what I used for my settings on my silhouette cameo was I went to the glitter flocking material and I just used the default settings on my cameo. It worked out great. Sometimes you need to do that little test. There's a little square that you can do a little test cut. If you want to do a little test cut before you do the whole big cut and, you know, not waste a whole sheet and find out that it didn't cut quite correctly. Because sometimes as our blade dulls over time, we might need to up the blade setting or the pressure setting. But I was able to do just all the default settings. My blade was set at 4. Again, it was the glitter flocking patterned, paper setting on my silhouette cameo. So if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section and I will read through them and answer everything that I'm able to. And I hope to see you next Tuesday. Again, please sign up for our newsletter at soinspiredbybonnie.com. And I hope to see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye for now.